y'all to realize is the privilege that you have of having Debra Medina in person here tonight. After the debate last Thursday, did any of y'all get to watch the debate?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, her phone has been ringing off the wall. The Wharton County headquarters has been ringing off the wall. Providentially, we have these meetings set up already. You can thank your host and hostess, Vera and Paul Allen. She jumped when I said I need somebody up in Upper East Texas, and she jumped and she reserved this spot, and she's been working to get the word out. It's privileged ground you're walking on to have Debra Medina in person. We want you to know that. That makes you the cream of the crop up here in this part of the country. And then you're going to have a greater responsibility because you're going to need to go out and tell everybody that you know about Debra Medina. This is not just a Republican issue. This is a Texan issue. And we need to get thinking voters. Those people that have become disenfranchised by the Republicans that have not kept their word. Those people that have become disenfranchised that believed that change was going to be something that it has not become, if you know what I mean, in Washington. And so you have all got a job to do, and after you hear Ms. Medina, you're going to want to go out and do it, and we want to help you do that as your East Texas coordinators.
Debra, would you please come up here? I want to introduce to you the next governor of the state of Texas, Debra Medina. We're going to hear from her, and then Nancy and I are going to come back and talk about how we're actually going to get her elected.
Thank you.
Folks, y'all come on in. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 empty seats, 7, 8. These have been paid for, so come on in.
That's right.
That's right. Come on in. They've been paid for already. Don't leave them empty.
I'm not sure where I am or what day it is. I know I'm in Northeast Texas somewhere, and in fact, we booked hotels in the wrong area because we were looking at the map, and I thought I was close anyway. We've had an interesting tour up here already, and every week in this campaign, I started campaigning back in February, and every week I think we're busy, and every week I learn a little bit more how busy you can get. And I think that our campaign team has really stepped it up quite a bit in the last 4 days, and we continue to see just an unbelievable outpouring of support from across Texas. It's a real privilege to stand here and talk with you tonight, and Nancy played that up a lot, but the truth is I'm just like you are. I'm nobody special. I'm a girl who stepped into a ring where there was a fight that needed to be fought. Someone tapped me on the shoulder in November a year ago and said, "Debra, would you run for governor?" And I knew right away that I didn't like the choices Texas Republicans were likely to have in March of 2010, but who the heck was I to step into that ring? I had been raised in that same bubble, if you will, that you are, that says you've got to have a lot of political experience and you've got to have a big money machine behind you, or you don't stand a prayer. Maybe that's the only thing you stand, is a prayer's chance of winning in that kind of a race. And we kind of wrote that off. It was not anything that we'd ever talked about. I homeschool both of my kids all the way through, and they will both tell you that their mama can turn any subject to religion or politics. You can't. There's not a topic that you can pick in the world that I don't turn it to religion or politics. And yet we've never, ever talked about mama running for governor. That was not something that had ever come up in our home. And so pretty quickly, Noe and I dismissed that comment and thought we wish somebody would run. A few weeks later, I got a phone call from a lady who was pretty determined. She had found a couple of others that believed I was the right candidate to represent the people of Texas. In fact, she said, "We need a people's candidate, and we've been watching you. We all know you. We've known you for 10 or 15 years, and we believe that you would be a people's candidate. We need you in this race." And we talked to some political folks who believe that if there's any place in the country where an insurgent candidate can win, it's the governor's race in Texas in 2010. Would you talk to that man? And so I had a conversation conversation, and I said, look, sir, I've been in business for a long time. You're not doing me any favors. You're not doing my family any favors by blowing a bunch of false flattery at me. If you've studied this race, I want to know why you believe we can win in Texas. And he said, well, let me not mince any words with you. It's not going to be easy, but it is doable. People are tired of, now this was, mind you, November of 2008. This was before the Tea Parties. This was before the 9/12 groups, when we were looking at how frustrated people were with incumbent politicians. We were looking at what had happened at the national level, and we'd seen Republicans getting our clocks clean, so to speak, time and time again, and I kept saying it didn't have anything to do with Republican ideals. It had everything to do with the fact that we continue to elect people who are not walking our talk. And the Republican Party platform historically has been the closest to the ideas that our founders had. It's been the closest to that constitutional republic. And yet, we all keep getting bigger and bigger government. I was in the midst of my third term as a Republican county chairman, and I've helped elect people who give us bigger government. And I've come to the point where I said, you know, we're not asking the right questions of candidates. These are job interviews. Any businessman that's in a successful business has to hire and fire well. And we keep hiring people that keep giving us the exact opposite of what we're looking for. So we're not asking the right questions in the job interview process. And some years ago, I got to the place in my own political work where I said, you know, the reason that we can't do that is because they all know the right buzzwords. Every candidate that comes before you in this election cycle is going to rail against health care. Even the governor knows he needs to rail against health care. He's had 9 years in office of building the very same health care model right here in Texas. Anybody in this room believe providing health care is the #1 job of the state of Texas? No. It's where we spend the biggest bulk of our money, on health care. So he's railing against it because we know what kind of lip service you need to hear. We're all going to say we're against nationalizing health care. We're all going to say we're conservative. We're all going to say we're constitutionalists. We're all going to say we want the border secure. We're all going to say we need better education. It's time we start asking candidates, do you know the difference between things that protect freedom and things that destroy it? And what are those things? Because that's the job of our government, to secure life, liberty, and property. Those are God-given rights. Government is here to protect those rights. That's right. That's the job of government. Justice first. This is a republic where the law dominates over man, not man over the law. I say that's the one thing Bill Clinton taught us, was that there was a royal class in America to whom the laws did not apply. The rest of us have to pay our taxes, but once you're in federal public service, it looks like it's okay if you don't pay yours. You know, we've lost a respect for the rule of law, and that is a sickness, a malady that pervades our whole society. This is a republic. It remains the best, brightest hope for freedom and prosperity on the face of the earth if and only if we follow the law and we allow the law to guide the behavior in our society. Do we understand what protects freedom and what destroys it? So when that next crisis comes, because none of us know what we will face in January of 2011 when this next team of elected public officials goes into office, none of us know what we will face. What we need to know as citizens is that the men and women that we have elected to serve in that next cycle will protect our freedom first. Those who would sacrifice security for freedom will have neither. You will be neither secure nor free. Do you know the difference?